speak. And other than that, my view would be it will take political will, because political players pledged peace, and there was no peace. Political players signed a code of conduct that says we're going to conduct ourselves as distinguished gentlemen in the conduct of the election, and they did not. So, again, in terms of our introspection, we're coming up with recommendations to say in future, because what you're actually alluding to, Commissioner Madu, is that there was a perception that ZEC was a toothless bulldog. We're working on that, and we do have recommendations.
Yes, I think that's the point I was making. But then being toothless and then we lost lives can actually create a moral case. This is why we're here. Life was lost, and if someone believes that ZEC was what could have prevented the death of my, my mother or my father or my son, that's why we are raising the issue. And I think the answer is clear now.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Justice, for your clear answers. It's been very insightful. I want to just ask a few follow-up questions on what my fellow commissioners have asked. You mentioned that it was peaceful up until the 1st of August. We've heard very compelling evidence that there were a number of provocative statements made leading up to that period. Did you, in the Commission, expect any problems to arise as a result of knowing about those statements, or did it come as a surprise? Many witnesses have said it was a complete surprise. I don't know if that's a view that you share.
Thank you for that question, Commissioner. I can't say that for us as a Commission it came as a complete surprise, because, as I said, in all of our interactions, in all of our attempts at dialogue with the political parties, we were hitting a brick wall. I'll give a case in point. We had some sticky issues around the question of procurement of ballot paper. And I was persuaded that in the interest of transparency and inclusivity, we should not be too formalistic with regards to what the law provided, but that we could come up with interventions to try and reach consensus. So this is what we did. We then invited political parties to say, come and sit down with us and dialogue. We're going to take you to the place where ballot paper is printed so that you can see it in progress, because there was a lot of mistrust around that issue. The main players, or the persons responsible for the degeneration of the situation, they never attended any of the low-level meetings that we would hold. So we would hold meetings, we're going to go about it, we meet at 8 o'clock, we go into the premises. They would wait until the intervention was in progress. And then there would be a social media, shall I say, instigation, or people would then be told on social media, we're going to a place where ballot paper is going to be printed, and then there would be an altercation at that place. Allegations would be made about, well, why aren't we allowed to bring in our cell phones? All sorts of silly and stupid things just to scarp the process. So we ended up just saying, look, we're going to stick to the letter of the law, because any other intervention that we've tried is clearly not working. So there were things that were happening between us and the political players, which made us as a commission apprehensive. And clearly some of the issues we were not sharing with members of the public. One can't hold a press conference every time something drops. So for us it didn't come as a surprise, because as I'm saying, what led to certain individuals announcing results themselves, we actually had our command center invaded by a political player who came in and said, this is rubbish. Whatever ZEC is saying, they're lying. They're stealing the election. In our own command center, we announced results. We took a brief break. During the break, a political player actually went up to the podium and said, oh, hello, there's Zimbabweans. These people are talking rubbish. This actually happened. So for us, we were apprehensive because we knew what was happening behind the scenes. We also had representatives of that particular political party causing chaos as we were trying to collect the presidential election results to say, well, you can't announce results until we sign something that says we agree with the results. So there's no law that says that. The law says we should just invite you so that you're present during our collation process. So there was a lot of conflict happening behind the scenes. For us, that didn't come as a surprise. We expected it. They told us enough times that if their own candidate did not win, there was going to be chaos.
Thank you. That's very helpful, because what we as the commissioners are trying to drill down to is what did work, if anything. It sounds like whatever you tried was not going to succeed. What do you think could work in the future, given that you highlighted there's this historic lack of trust, there's, we can see from the evidence, deep polarization. And how is it possible to overcome these obstacles? It's a tall order for us as commissioners to have to consider any help that.
Greetings to everybody who's watching us live right up now. Welcome to TV7. My name is Dr. Clarence. Thank you guys for tuning in. Yes, we're going to be continuing with that Priscilla Chigumba testament. Please guys, bear with me. My network keeps dropping frames. You know, we're using Ethernet 4G, and it's very unreliable. Unfortunately, we don't have any alternative. All right, so just want to apologize for that. Big up to everybody who's watching us live. Tabet Nabudu, Stephen, Sean, Trimo, Jirisei, Manyara, Mawunga. We have Chilewusi, Target. Big up everybody. All right, I'll be reading your comments as soon as we finish with this Chigumba questionnaire before the Commission of Inquiry. All right.
We could get from those so experienced as you would be much appreciated.
For us, purely as an electoral management body, as I've said, we're in the process of introspecting, and we're coming up with intervention. I have actually consulted, we have something that's called the ZEC Electoral Commissions Forum. We're trying to learn some lessons from our sister EMPs in the SADC region to say how do they deal with those conflict situations, and we're trying to incorporate them and make them part of the recommendations that we're going to make to Parliament to say, look, in order to avoid such conflict in the future, this is what we need to do. I'll just give a very simple example. During the time when we were having conflict around procurement of ballot paper, we would have political parties saying, well, in Zambia, in order to avoid conflict, they sponsor members of political parties to go to Dubai and stay in a hotel for 30 days while the ballot paper is being procured and printed. All right? So I had occasion to talk to the current chairman of the Zambian electoral management body, and I said, Chairperson, can you tell me how it works? Was it a law? Did you have regulations around it? How did you choose who would get to spend a month in Dubai at taxpayers' expense? And he said, you know what, Judge, we've since scrapped that because we found it wasn't working in Zambia. But during the 2018 elections, we had certain players say, we want to do what is done in Zambia. So what I'm saying is, we're trying to learn from our sister commissions, we're trying to learn about how they're doing it so that we incorporate it and make recommendations to Parliament so that it becomes part of the Electoral Act and hopefully minimize conflict around such issues.
And then just finally, turning to the violence on the 1st of August itself, you clearly very strongly condemned the killings, and you gave some causes. I noted them down. I might have missed some out, but there were three, I thought. The first one, deliberate disregard for the election law. Secondly, that the MDC was mobilizing against the community targeting women. And thirdly, that there should have been a recognition that violence should not have been used to change the election laws. It should operate through Parliament. You didn't make any mention of the role of the army or the police in this. I just wanted to know whether what they did from what you know, what you saw, complicated your role at all. Did it affect what you did on the day or the day after?
Thank you very much for that question, Commissioner. The Zimbabwe Republic Police is a vital part of our electoral management process. I think the Commissioner General of Police gave the numbers of police officers that were actually deployed to assist us during the election period. I think we had 5 police officers at every polling station. Multiply that by 11,000 polling stations, and you can get the level of commitment and deployment in terms of manpower that came to us from the Zimbabwe Republic Police. They assisted us to guard the polling stations, to guard the ballot papers. They were present on polling day. So we rely heavily on the Zimbabwe Republic Police. In fact, they also even assisted us to guard our premises, particularly our head office, when we were being overrun. We would picket it, we would call them, and they would come. So in fact, I found the presence of the Zimbabwe Republic Police, on the contrary, actually quite comforting. With regards to the particular events of August the 1st, as I said in my statement to the Commission, I was in the command center, and then we only received reports about what was happening on the streets. So I didn't actually experience it firsthand. I was watching it on television, sitting inside the comfort of the command center. What I know is that this country has laws around issues of riots and crowd control, and that those laws, whether or not those laws were actually flouted or whether they were actually followed, I think it's for this commission to decide. But speaking on my own behalf and speaking for myself, having been subject to a siege by a rowdy mob, I don't want to judge those who were on the ground in this situation in action that they took. What I found deplorable, perhaps, was the fact that in an ideal world, perhaps live ammunition could have been used as a last resort. But as I said, I'm not a soldier, I'm not a policeman, I was not on the ground. But speaking for myself, having been under siege inside a building with a rowdy mob outside, burning effigies of you and pictures of you, that's very, very frightening.
And you say you didn't actually look out and see the police or the army there?
Well, by the time that, because inside, you understand, the command center is a closed sort of thing. I actually went up to the 11th floor, and by the time I got to the 11th floor, the side of the street where I could see, I saw a tanker actually moving quite slowly, in fact. I didn't see any shooting. I saw a tanker chasing people as they were running along the street. In fact, it was moving slowly and people were running frantically by the side of the road, and the tanker was moving along. There were no soldiers outside the tank. I didn't see the soldiers inside the tank, and I saw that from the 11th floor about 10 minutes after the whole incident started. So I didn't see any shootings.
And did you hear any shots being fired at that time?
Not from the command center where I was, I didn't.
Thank you very much for your answers.
Justice Chigumba, thank you very much for your narration of events. My question is on paragraph 14 of your application submitted to the Commission. You are indicating that the publication of constituency results was progressing very well. We got information, I think we got that from one witness in Bulawayo who was vehemently complaining about results of 2 constituencies in Harare, which had not been received, yet those from as far as Mzarabani and Lupani had already been announced. Maybe you would want to explain that for the benefit of the public and for the Commission.
Thank you very much for that question, Commissioner Mnangagwa. What actually happens in terms of results transmission is this: 7 p.m. doors are closed, polling time is over. Each polling station has an obligation to count the votes cast in the ballot box. But that's not the only thing that they're doing inside the collation center. They're also looking at residue. As you know, ballot papers are serialized, isn't it? So they actually also verify the serial numbers, because before polling starts, every agent who's inside that polling station will have taken down the serial numbers of all the ballot papers for accountability purposes, to say we had 20 ballots, serialized 1 to 20, we had 15 votes, 2 spoiled ones, and residue. You understand? So depending on whether or not those who are observing at that particular polling station are in agreement about the serial numbers, are in agreement about the number of votes cast, are in agreement about spoiled votes, are in agreement about residue. Some polling stations actually take longer to compile their V11s. And the procedure is then everyone who's inside the polling station during counting actually signs off on the V11. By signing or appending your signature to the V11, you're saying, I agree with everything that has happened inside this polling station. I agree that there were 10 votes. I agree that there were 3 spoils. I agree that there were 2 residue. You understand? I also agree with the serial numbers. So the presiding officer has to give everyone inside that polling station, even if there are 18 observers, you have to give everyone inside that polling station a chance to verify the serial numbers. Now, Harare being Harare, Harare is the largest province. Out of all of our 10 electoral provinces, Harare is the largest province. And Harare being the capital, Harare had the highest number of observers. So there was much more conflict in Harare inside the polling stations. It wasn't just a question of Well, Harare is within walking distance of the command center. There were people inside the polling station who were querying every single ballot paper and exercising their right to verify the serial numbers. So quite clearly, the results for Harare province, actually most of the results for Harare province came in last. It's bigger, it had more polling stations, it had more observers, it took longer to verify. So you cannot compare, for instance, with Matabeleland North, which probably has just a few polling stations. Those results would have gotten to us much faster. And what we wait for is to say, wait to hear, is there any polling station where someone has declined to sign the V11 form on the basis that they don't agree with the results? We never got any such reports of anyone refusing to sign the V11 form. They all agreed, but the process takes time, and we're required to give them sufficient time within which to verify. It was also given to the Commission that when the MDC Alliance were marching, they were talking about stealing of the vote. Is it then your evidence that processes, the way you do your things at ZEC, it is possible to steal a vote, or it is possible? I would say it's impossible to steal a vote. As I've said, I've just gone into detail. I've just gone into detail to explain to you the procedure, to say everyone who was observing. We had international observers, remember, for the first time in quite a number of years. We had regional observers, we had domestic observers, we had our own staff inside the polling stations. Not a single observer refused to sign off against the B11 forms on the basis that there was something untoward inside that polling station. Because the report that we look for administratively is to say, at a polling station in Chitumbiza, Mrs. Nyemba, who was an observer, said she wasn't happy with the count, she wasn't happy with the serial numbers, there was a ballot paper missing, therefore she refused to sign the B11. Everybody inside each and every polling station signed against the B11 form. And this is...
Alright guys, what's up, what's happening? Yes, there was Justice Priscilla Chigumba before the Commission of Inquiries. What she's saying is making sense. It's not what a lot of you would love to hear. It's unfortunate. A lot of us Zimbabweans want to be told what we want to hear. Kana mama yanzoterera Priscilla Chigumba, what Priscilla Chigumba was saying, ari kutaura nyaya yema V11 kuti vanhu vakasaina hapana akaramba kusaina achiti because of this is this and that, and my results ekuharare akanonoka because apparently Harare is the biggest province of all the provinces in Zimbabwe. Saka panopera election process yekuverenga it takes a longer kuvanhu vari kuHarare, and then the results would be brought in physically, and it, which means kuti kuHarare kuzo eda up chi. Maybe that is when some may contest kuti vaidi ku announce my results per polling station. I don't know how many total of polling stations angari, but obviously I think it's around 11,000 plus total number of polling stations. So probably it was going to take days to announce the results. But I think all my questions angari anovunzika avunzwa. I don't know what's your perspective on this one. Okay, thank you for everybody. Thank you to everybody who was watching us live. Tinotenda Gutusa says targeting someone already. Zangowangano hapana chinobuda wakanyanya kuona. I don't think so. Tafiri kashoniwa. What Chigumba is saying is sensible. Like when she says kuti mungwe munu we party actually invaded the command center. I think you remember MDC spokesperson Bakashika results ake, and they were already saying kuti results akasabuda tisina kuwina. The election has been rigged, and that is prejudice ukona. And the candidates anga sign the code of conduct everybody did I also signed that paper. Polling station my observers outside international vaisaina futi pama V11 hapana akamboramba kusaina pama V11 ndo nyaya iripo. And it True Zimbo says Doc, don't take their side. Mind you, she's a judge, she's good at lying. Already by asking me to not take a side, you are already taking a side. True Zimbo, what I'm saying is what she's saying should not make a sense. Chigumba arikuti pane this road mob vanu ava vai protester vai pisa mapikicha achigumba antimukona November ma1 hoya. I'm gonna play you also after this video, I think an hour later. Yeah, Matanga, we're gonna be scrutinizing it up close and personal. Matanga achitaura kuti masoja akadaidzwa sei. In his testimony, in his statement, apana kumbomentionwa vice president, which is also an issue. We don't know why vanhu vari kuti ningirikini Chiwenga this, Chiwenga that. I think we should be tofana kuacta mature sevanhu vane brains inofungawo and look at facts as they come, kuti tisazoita kunge mapenzi to the international community. And it tinotenda gutusa targeting someone already. Purity Chipfupa, big up Obama to say zanu inotamba nevano Chigumba ngaite mushe Zimbabweans are suffering lost brothers and sisters because of a few ZPF officials leaning to Musoko say let us respect each other. Dog always saying shout in each other doesn't bring reality. Let's facts. Yes, that is very true, Mr. Simon Mpofu. No problem yataita yekusada kufesa ma facts. Kune vanhu vaneta drama vatsvaga relevance, but according to me, I didn't see anywhere where Priscilla Chigumba paakaporonga, and Priscilla Chigumba ngoti they should have used at least they should not have used live ammunition. And it Shepherd Chitakunye shooting live bullets to Povo. Yeah, that one is also shocking because me personally I assumed they wear rubber bullets, but AK-47s do not take rubber bullets. Faith in Povo, Michelle Iris say big up to everybody. Full public uprising will stop this suffering one day. Zimbabwe men are cowards. Apana muna nomboda kufa vanenge vachikuda kutungamira vachina vanenge asiri kumberi vanenge vari kumashure nekumahotera. Clara Rwena Mojiri say big up. Prepare Kamzala Tom Doreen Mucheki. Big up to everybody who's watching us live right about now. Alright, so guys, we're gonna be just I think in an hour from now we're gonna get deep into the Mataga. It's already out there, but Panama facts to not is like the whole process. So we'll be explaining it. And once again, apologies for the bad network. It drop my frames around 30% of frames. Were dropped. Remember guys, we're using Econet 4G, and that is the performance of Econet 4G in Harare. I'm broadcasting from Harare. The reason why I always say it's Econet 4G, I do that so whoever is at Econet can see kuti network yawe yakamira say, maybe Mr. Strive Masiwa himself can see what's happening ku network yake, the level of incompetence. Ku Econet kwagara kwaita problem yekuti vanhu vanosenza ku Econet vakutofunga kuti ivo ndivo ana Strive Masiwa vachona, saka vanhu vanosenza ku Econet kazhinji kachona vanozvida. Anditi pride tumaje kuzvifila which is really bad. Tsepo Moyo says I'm watching she live in Joburg. Anzina Bekim Pilo Mpofu zanu liyayangisa libusa ngezazi lizifeyila ze-Africa. Shame on you. Okay, let me just check more comments. Judith Mbewe, my results akachinjwa. There is no evidence to that. Tapio says Chigumba is sell out. I know most people wanted a feedback from out of Zimbabwe without really looking into the factors. There was no evidence to that. The V11s presented were the ones signed by all parties. Akuna akaramba kusaina ma V11. Unfortunately, MDC Alliance did not have agents at all polling stations. They didn't have agents at all polling stations. In fact, they didn't even field all members of parliament and all councillors. Stronghold. No. Then post-election, a lot of MDC people have been fired from office because ukadzingwa party unobuda mu office ya state because you won using the political parties tag Innocent Daka Jiri say Sebo Treble Manyara Mawe says Morgan Komich Haana Kusaina Manyara comment yako guy. I remember the person we are talking about. I will not respond to that one. Big up Doc working in Balfour Park, South Africa. That's Flatter Mavura. And you are offending us. This inquiry is circus. Where is footage of protesters carrying guns and burning things? Vadara kana iri satanism yakavabata yakaipa cause vari kuuraya vanhu kunge masvosve apa tichitambura ivo vari both. That's Abraham Gunika. Maresults andakashingwa Judith Mbewe, Tapio Manika, Eric Manomano Ziri say Doc, the V11s never were signed, yes, but results were changed. I was in Zimbabwe and I visited many places and everywhere is complaining about Zimbabwe. Godfrey Mtamaliga Ziri say Faith Mpofu says Mawan, Michelle Irie, Judith Mbewe. Econet Pips Kujida for real Trukwazia. That's Sebo Treble. Alright guys, we're gonna be back. Nemasini iwaya commission of inquiry. Asini ni anyanya kundinakidza. Ndiye msoja wachona achivunzwa manje. Zichiti unofana utanga wafire ma warning shot then unozoita shoot to disable. But inenda ndakaona kuti ndikaita shoot to disable zvaizokwadza vanhu because bara iri reNgerekendere AK bara 1 rinogona kuuraya kana vanhu kana 10 richipinda richibuda ndo zvarinoita bara iroro. So that's what he's claiming kuti I think ndo paakarwa nemusoja here. Felix Mutori says with this government we are doomed. Alright guys, Dr. Clarence is my name. TV7 Live is the channel. I'm gonna sign out right about now. We're gonna be back at 2:30 p.m. with more videos. Enough respect to everybody who was watching us live. All right, Dr. Clarence, TV7 Live. I am out.